Ahoy Captain, and welcome to this amazing episode of how to decarbonize your ship. I'm saying amazing because this is the first time that we're gonna take a battery pack, stick it onto a general cargo ship, thereby making it a battery hybrid, but we're gonna directly see the impact of different operational profiles and loading conditions on the business case. Different operational profile, different business case, slightly different capex, but mostly different OPEX, different savings. And we're going to dive in very precisely into what these savings incur, what gives you the biggest savings, impact of operational profile, etc. So that's why it's going to be an amazing episode, because I can finally show you what the impact is of the operational profile on a battery hybrid pack. What we're gonna see in this case study, and we're gonna call it the Major Prius. We previously looked at the General Prius. Now we're gonna look at the Major Prius. Firstly, we see about 10 to 40% CO2 reduction at berth. We're gonna mostly look at the impact of higher load settings, and the higher your general loads, the less, of course, your benefits. The capex will be roughly similar, but because we have generally higher loads, we want to get a slightly larger battery pack. Annual savings are, well, slightly less, order of magnitude 20 to 30,000 euros per year. That's going to give you a longer payback rate, so definitely in this case I would still consider a lease or a rental. And again, this case study was made with the help of Royal Roos. Thank you very much for helping us in this case study. And if after using the tool or watching the video you want to do some detailed engineering or you need project management, Royal Roos can definitely help you with sticking a battery pack on board your ship. Before we start, a few disclaimers from our part. As always, the tools that we use are only a model. Of course, we're gonna make assumptions based on ship types. We don't know your exact ship, but luckily you can download the tool, adjust the assumptions and get a better estimate yourself. But again, it's a model, so be mindful of the assumptions that we make. Secondly, the tools are constantly evolving, so the version that you're seeing now might be different than the one that you can use online. The premium is different than the freemium, constantly adding new features, so bear with us in that as well. Hopefully they are evolving for the best into a butterfly, of course, not the other way around. Thirdly, the tools are made by humans. Errors can creep in, so if you think you see one, please provide us with feedback so we can improve and hopefully evolve for the better. And finally, all the data that we have is based on publicly available data. Again, we take a lot of assumptions, we take publicly available data, and we make business cases. If you want something more or special, contact the help desk and we can investigate your needs. But without further ado, let's dive into the Major Prius. What you see here is a special version of the battery hybrid single engine tool that we have publicly available. What we've done here is something special in terms of the operational profile. So let me quickly tell you what you can do with this tool before I show you what to do. So what we have is we have a setup for a battery pack, mostly while at berth or moored. And the battery pack provides power to the vessel. You can shut down the generator. Once you start sailing again, the auxiliary generator kicks in, or you use power takeoff, fill the battery again, and you're off. So what we need is the engine power, the auxiliary engine power. Last time we saw it was about 116 kilowatts. Need some time to think. And then we have an average engine load resulting into an average power demand and the required amount of running hours for the system. So typically we say we need 8 hours of, let's say, rest or whatever. You can also do 10, 12 or whatever hours. That simply increases the size of the battery pack. We're gonna go for roughly 1 day night at berth. However, last time we only had like an average engine load, so the engine is running steadily. Now we're gonna shake things up a little. Yeah, I had to think there. So here we have the business case, and what we have here is an operational profile and then different operational profiles. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to adjust the battery cell price, because we know it's a lot less than the conservative price than we have here. And we're going to show you that low load and intermediate already make a very big difference. But what is low load and what is intermediate? If we go here to technical specs, then here in the gray, you see a randomized load profile made for this particular case. And here we can actually see different load profiles and how they affect the battery. So let me go through them with you. Here we see a low load, very low load, sometimes even less than 20%. The engine is barely clinging on, but you see there that the battery itself can actually last more than the 8 hours that we wanted. And then it's recharged, and then in this case your load increases, so the battery depletes faster, engine needs to kick in again. Why do we see an entire day here? Because, well, we can smuggle with the energy, or we can make different kinds of business cases, but what we did is we looked at into a full day, and we said at the end of the day, because the battery pack needs to be recharged by the engines, it needs to be at the same level as the energy point where it started, so the state of charge needs to be similar. So what we see here above are the reduced amount of engine hours mostly. That's where you get also your savings from in most cases. The average specific fuel consumption leading to a certain amount of fuel and emissions reductions. And then finally the fuel consumption almost cut in half per day. So that's of course great. I've also added a slider for the load factor of the engine, so you can actually have the engine working not at 80% at its best specific fuel consumption curve, but also higher. What that means is that you can set the maximum engine power to 100% and recharge your battery faster. Basically that's it. So here we can play around with different load settings, and you can immediately see how these load settings impact your savings, specific fuel savings, fuel consumption in total, and of course the engine hours mostly. So if we're gonna look at for example this demanding curve, there you see that we sometimes have peaks going all the way up to 100%. If this is the case, then you see that even though your engine hours are reduced by almost 40%, we only have about 10%, well, roughly 12% fuel consumption in liters, so also in mass or units of kilograms, so roughly a 12% reduction of emissions. So in this case we still have quite some benefits also in this varying profile, but you see that even if we have a lot of peaks going up and then the generator needs to be on for quite some time, even though it's the amount of engine hours is reduced by 50%, we still have only 10% fuel reduction. And in very extreme cases you can see that you still need a lot of energy to power the peaks, so the total amount of emissions reduced and or fuel is not that much. So here we can actually see the different power profiles. These are just examples. Of course, if you're a member, you can download the tool and then you can input your power profile and actually see what it would mean for you. So that's of course perfect. That's what we want. So going back to the business case, because that's what I'm most excited about. Well, actually when I see this is not getting me very exciting, but I think we can mostly conclude that if you have very high peaks, so peaks that go all the way up to 100% of your engine for a larger period of the day, most likely in terms of economical perspective, it's going to be hard to make a business case. We're going to try anyway, but we're first going to try with the easy one, the low load. That's of course much more fun. There we go. We've already reduced the battery cell price, the amount of port calls for these ship types, 120 days per year. It's a lot, but basically if you're moored in the weekends and also during the nights, then this could definitely be achievable. And then we have a total annual savings of about 35,000 euros per year and a capex of 215,000. This does sound quite feasible, especially if we look at the battery capacity, roughly 200 kilowatt hours. Again, that would fit inside a somewhat larger cabinet. That's the cells themselves. The transformer or converter could be outside, but it wouldn't take up too much space. Basically, you could do a cabinet, definitely well within a 10 feet container. I'd say half or maybe a quarter of a 10 feet container there. And if we look at the capex, there are some things, especially the foundation and containment for the battery system itself. This is quite expensive, and we did it last time two that if we say, okay, we're going to put it on the deck, then you definitely see that almost a year, you get your payment back or your investment back almost a year earlier. So then we only have a capex of about 150. So we're going to give ourselves some leeway. We're only going to look at equipment. This seems like a fair price for a battery pack of about 200 euros per kilowatt hour. Especially, well, it needs to be marine grade, of course, but especially if we have a lower load setting for the battery and not too demanding. So those peaks will definitely maybe ask more demanding cell chemistry. So that might impact your price and of course make it higher. Also there, members can ask us to get them a few budget quotes from the preferred suppliers that we have on the platform. Anyway, so this is low load. So what happens if we do intermediate? And there we intermediately see that, well, this definitely increases the payback rate by quite a lot. We have something new here. We can save our case. So I'm going to save this case because I want to compare intermediate with, I think, the low load. There we go, the low load. Also going to save that one. Take some time to export it correctly. But then we can get a nice report of all the different parameters that we put in. And then I'm also going to check leasing. Oh, yeah, this is interesting. Before we do that, here we have the report. So you can take this, and this was the intermediate, of course, and this was the, yeah, this was the other one. So we can take and compare these reports and bring them to management or whatever, and let them, then here we can actually show them, okay, if we have this profile, that will be the saving. If we have this profile, that will be the saving, blah, blah, blah. And you can play around, but at least you have something to give. And then finally, in terms of leasing, and that is why I'm a big fan of, well, leasing or renting this equipment. Well, again, this needs to be a little bit higher, and I will change that in the future. I promise. I promised it last time as well, but I will do it now. So if we get, this is actually pretty interesting. So suppose we get a lease on the equipment, on some form of rental, in which we basically say the annual savings that we have are transferred into an OPEX for a lease, and then we don't have capex out. As you can see, €0. Our day rate, well, still decreased, but because we have additional loans, then it will be increased. We have some interest paid, of course not just some interest, also some payment. So in the beginning we lose maybe a little money, but it seems to indicate that we have almost no cash out, still savings, and it could definitely help us out with, for example, Fuel EU, CII, EXI, not sure, but EU ETS as well. Let's have a look there and how that would work. Yeah, okay, so here we see that most of the savings that we see will be in terms of maintenance. So what if we go back to not leasing anymore, and here the impact of, yes, we see that the impact of engine maintenance is by far the biggest factor in this business case. So if you have very low maintenance or a very cheap engine or whatever, it's going to be harder to make a case. If you have a very expensive engine, then it's going to be easy to make such a case. This probably is more influential, yes, a lot more influential than fuel price. So this is also something you can bring up with management and then investigate what the engine maintenance would be for your engine, of course, and then finally we can save the case and get a nice report to show to others. And that's it in terms of the operational profile. Feel free to play around with a different operational profile. For our members, you can download the tool itself and input your operational profile. You know what, I'm just going to show where to do it. So here we have the premium tool. As you can see, same figures, same numbers. And in power profiles, there we go. If you zoom out here, you can input your very own power profile per minute in order to see what the influence would be on your generator running. And basically that's it. If you input your own power profile in a day, what you get is your very own estimate of that particular day running on the battery and the engine. So sign up today to get all the tools and support that you need in order to make your own business cases and be prepared for regulations in maritime sustainability. Thank you for watching this video and have a great day.